Stop me if you've heard this one already. There's a group of people, foreign, different, speaking another language, seeking refuge after a harrowing experience of subjugation and sustained violence. These people are approaching the borders of a country. The leader of the nation whose borders they approach reacts in fear and recruits powerful voices to join him in condemning and cursing this mass of foreigners. You know exactly who I'm talking about here. Of course you do. It's been all over the news this week, at least in the Jewish press that I read. I'm talking about King Balak of Moab, reacting to the approach of the Israelites in this week's Torah portion. That's who you were thinking of, right? The story in this week's parashah introduces Balak, king of the Moabites, the one who wants to destroy this foreign people who approach his country's borders. It also brings us Bilam, the prophet who raises his voice in blessing over these foreigners. Of course, Bilam didn't intend to do that when Balak came to him for help with his migrant problem. But Bilam spoke the prophetic word of the man whose eye is true, who beholds visions from the Almighty with eyes unveiled. God opens Bilam's eyes. Instead of seeing what the king Balak sees, a terrifying foreign army threatening his country's existence, the prophet Bilam is able to see this as a group of people with humanity and dignity and value. He is changed when God opens his eyes, and Bilam speaks the new reality that he sees. In his pursuit of curses, King Balak sought to dehumanize Israel, a nation he not only didn't respect, but whose dignity and right to exist he denied. He reduced a people to a faceless foreign threat. Speaking words provided by God, Bilam does not curse Israel as his patron Balak had hoped. Instead, Bilam the prophet blesses Israel. With his words, Bilam restores to Israel its humanity. He turns our ancient ancestors from a faceless mass back into a people worthy of God's love and of other people's respect. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob, Bilam declares. Beautiful words of blessing and of respect that we're about to hear again when Cantor Kudrain chants from the Torah. Tonight, not quite 4,000 years after Israel's migration past the borders of Moab, I wonder, what is it that we would see if our eyes were opened? Who do we dehumanize when we refuse to see them? Whose humanity could we restore if we were to speak prophetic words reflecting the vision of eyes that are true? Just like Balak, we don't often see those we don't understand. Language, race, culture, economic and political barriers separate us from truly seeing one another. People who are homeless, people who are or were incarcerated, people with disabilities, veterans, those suffering from chronic illness, and, yes, the stranger, the refugee, the migrant, and the immigrant. We can struggle to truly see them. In an interview on Krista Tippett's podcast On Being, photography and culture writer Teju Cole related the stories of two men who weren't seen until extraordinary circumstances made them visible. These men, Lassana Batili and Mamadou Gassama, immigrated to France from Mali. Lassana Batili came to attention when he saved multiple people during the terror attack on a Jewish grocery store in Paris in 2015. Mamadou Gassama saved a child in Paris last year. Both men selflessly put themselves in danger to save others. And both men were rewarded for their heroism by being granted French citizenship, resolving their formerly tenuous official status. Teju Cole told these stories not to celebrate these men's strength or bravery, but to make this point. The superhuman is rewarded with formal status as a human. The merely human, meanwhile, remains unhuman, quasi-human, subhuman. Gassama crossed the Mediterranean in a tiny boat. That was superhuman, but no one filmed that, so he remained subhuman and there was no reward. These men, whose race and nationality and class made them outsiders in France, were welcomed as insiders as soon as the country could see them. But it took extraordinary acts on their part before the eyes of their country were unveiled. Seeing one another as human, honoring our shared humanity, and acknowledging one another's human dignity are the prerequisites for genuine connection. And the opposite is true. If we refuse to accept another person's humanity and dignity, we close the door to even the chance of finding connection with them. Too often we do this. Our veiled eyes prevent us from seeing people and potential relationships that are right in front of us. Rabbi Lisa Edwards identifies 4 lessons for us from the story of Balak. They're both simple and profound. First, try to see goodness in that which is strange to us. Second, treat aliens with kindness, not cruelty. Third, listen to others, even those whom we regard as less powerful or important than we are. And finally, avoid arrogance or a sense of entitlement in ourselves. Simple, right? Maybe in theory, but in reality, it is hard work to see the humanity and honor the dignity of people we don't understand. Balak's story shows us the face of a man who cannot see the other as imbued with inherent dignity and believes that they should be destroyed. But the prophet Bilam teaches us about honoring one another, respecting one another, and the holiness of connecting across difference. This Shabbat, this week, this month, and this year, let us be Bilam and not Balak. Let us open our eyes, choose to see all of the people before us, and speak words that honor one another's dignity. Let us put aside fear and curses, and instead seek to raise one another up in blessing. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.